We did just get the new update, so let me get you to that information here. Let's see if it pulls it up. So we remain unchanged with the winds. Hurricane Francine of 90-mile-an-hour winds, pressure of 976 millibars, and it has picked up speed by 1 mile an hour. So we are seeing an increase in that forward speed here that is going to bring this up to the Louisiana coastline. Here is the latest path, and you can see, look at that bend to the east. So that is becoming more of a trend. Look at how that puts it more in line with Terrebonne Parish rather than here in Acadiana. Now the Hurricane Center is expecting maybe another bend back to the north, but notice they also look to keep this below Category 2 strength. So the drier air, the wind shear seems to be winning out on this and keeping this from getting to that Category 2 level. However, I still would want you to prepare for a Category 2 landfall here if you live along the coast. But again, notice they are dead set here on that Morgan City location.
They must have something against Morgan City is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to take away from this is that this only decreased by 10 miles per hour. So just because it's not Cat 2 versus Cat 1 doesn't mean, oh, it's going to be much worse, much better. This is just a decrease in 10 miles per hour. You're not going to notice any difference, whether or not they forecast 100 miles per hour or 90 miles per hour, because we're still going to be looking at gusts that are well into Category 2 range.
Right.
We could be looking at almost 100 mile per hour wind gusts or higher than that. So just because we're forecasting a Category 1 and you live in Morgan City or Franklin, Jeanerette, even New Iberia, because New Iberia is actually in the cone just a little bit. I don't think it's going to take that westerly turn. If anything, as you were saying, Terrebonne Parish. But still, if you are anywhere in that area, you're going to be expecting impacts, especially with the northern eye wall starting to get more fortified.
Well, and the other thing, too, I want to make mention, notice 7 o'clock tonight, we are at landfall. So because the Hurricane Center is expecting this to go a little bit more to the north, that is delaying landfall by about an hour or two here. Had this gone a little more to the east, according to them, and it still could, if this went a little bit more to the east, this could really have sped things up a bit. But it really hasn't picked up that forward speed from the jet stream. That jet stream really was expected to accelerate this. That looks to be delayed a little bit. Look at this, 7 p.m. So we go from 10 o'clock right now to 7 p.m. It moves, I'd say, 200 miles about offshore. From 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., you double that. So it picks up speed incredibly once we get into Louisiana. So you're talking about 17 hours here, 12 hours. It moves so much faster. And that is the great news about this whole thing, that this will be in and out of the area. We're not going to see this do an Ida where it just sits on top of us. Even Laura lingered for a while. Delta was one that rolled on out. Zeta was one that rolled on out. So this is going to do that here. It will be interesting, though, to see. There has been that easterly trend that we've been watching. Hurricane Center is bending it back and pulling it more to the north. High resolution models bring this closer to New Orleans. Global models turn it right around Morgan City.
I guess it's going to be a competition who can actually get the track right. One thing that I do want to point out is, actually I forgot I was going to point out. You continue talking.
Well, no, it's fine. If you remember it, let me know. But, we are going to be monitoring this very, very closely for all these little wobbles back and forth through the cone, because that will be important. If we do see a little wobble that does take this more to the west, that does bring those impacts closer to New Iberia. Now, if you remember, I said I didn't see this in the morning show. I was talking about how I did not see this really going on the western side to Sycamore Point. It would be Franklin. And that's about where we're seeing the edge of the cone here. They actually do have it over Sycamore Point here. I would think that maybe down towards that Cocodrie-Dulac area. Cocodrie sits right about here in Terrebonne Parish. So, I do think this is still a possibility. The Hurricane Center believes that trough is going to come in and pull it northward, and that is the difference between the modeling. We have the high resolution models that say it's not going to get picked up by that trough until later on in the day, turning it over New Orleans. We have the Hurricane Center and the global models saying it is going to get picked up by that trough, accelerate a lot faster, and make landfall in Morgan City. A spread of 30 miles, grand scheme of things, not a huge difference. But when you're talking about landfall within the next 12 hours.
Absolutely huge.
Yep.
And one thing that I do want to point out that I actually remember what I was going to tell you. And,
Yeah.
so as you mentioned that the landfall has been pushed back a little bit. And when most people hear that, they think, oh, the storm's going to be over water a little bit longer. It's going to be able to soak up more of that jet fuel that we have in the Gulf. Is that going to be the case? Or will wind shear win out? Will dry air win out? What's going to be happening with that? Just because it's making landfall a little bit slower, still moving very rapidly.
Right, and one of the things that we saw, it's a very interesting topic in the meteorological community, because you have hurricanes like Delta, which got incorporated into the jet stream and became a half-a-cane. The wind shear won out, flipped this thing over, and it weakened. It grew to a Category 3 in the Gulf and then weakened drastically as it came ashore. But then you have storms like Olga and Zeta and Ian that tapped into the jet stream. It basically was parallel with their motion. They had a little jet streak, which is an enhanced area of winds in the upper levels that caused storm development, and they strengthened rapidly on approach. This one looks to have not coordinated perfectly enough with that jet streak. We saw that blossoming overnight, where it really looked like it might try and take off, and then now it looks like that wind shear, the drier air, is going to win out in the end. So while we are still tracking a hurricane, and one that could sneak up to Category 2 status, it's still a possibility. It's looking a little bit better in that sense. I mean, the best news of all, it is going to be a blow, but it's going to be a fast-moving hit rather than a slow building progress here that we are watching play out across the area through the next couple of hours. So that's what we're tracking right now. Tell me in my ear, are we going to start the show over again, or are we going to the anchors? Can you, if y'all are back there, give me some guidance there. But we will... We are going to go back to the desk here for a little bit, just to get you updated with some new information, and we're going to kind of digest what we just got in from the Hurricane Center. We'll be back with an update in just a little bit. Alex and Scott?